The Champion's Ballad, which is the second installment of Zelda Breath of the Wild's DLC, is yet another hit. In short, this is just more content from one of the greatest games ever, so Nintendo really couldn't go wrong here. In the beginning of the DLC, you receive an item called the One-Hit Obliterator. This weapon can kill any enemy in one hit, but with a couple of seconds of cooldoff time. The downside to this weapon is it only takes one hit for you to die, but you're required to use it for one of these missions, and it can be quite the challenge. The smallest things that you're least expecting will inevitably lead to your demise. My first death reminded me of when I first played this game back in March. I basically just walked into a wooden spike just a couple minutes into my first playthrough. Nintendo definitely put that there on purpose just to mess with me. I promise you. One of the points of this DLC was to teach everyone some of the story elements that they were leaving out of the normal game, and it doesn't really do a great job explaining that, so I'm gonna just be here to talk about the gameplay. Once you obtain the One-Hit Obliterator, you have to go to 4 dots, each resembling a base in your map. After you murder every last living thing in that base, you unlock a shrine that you have to complete. Link is a frickin' monster when you think about it. One of the tips I could give you with the One-Hit Obliterator is that going stealth was a no-brainer. The way I enjoyed progressing was finding a good vantage point and then taking out the archers first. You're not required to use the One-Hit Obliterator at all. I just use it when I'm in a kind of close combat situation, but keeping your distance seems to be the way to go. Every now and then I like to sneak in for a nice strike and take down an opponent, but just running in head on is a straight suicide mission, so I do not recommend that whatsoever. I would say though, the main reason to download this is for the shrines. The shrines are extremely challenging but rewarding at the same time, and it was really my favorite part of the DLC because it really does test your brain. Once you complete the first task, you lose your One-Hit Obliterator, which is pretty sad, but I don't really miss it that much because I like all my hearts and they're back, and I'm just back in action as powerful Link. The new task is you have to go back to the 4 temples you completed in the main quest. Here's where the challenge can get a little bit tricky. These random structures pop out of the ground, and then you have to look at these dots on these maps and map it to your map and then try to track it down and unlock more shrines. It's kind of tedious and it's kind of difficult, but I guess exploration is a big part of Breath of the Wild, so I can't complain too much about it. Once you figure out the locations of all these dots, then there are these certain tasks that you have to accomplish. Like, for one, I had to shoot 4 targets in one kind of sequence, and once I did that, a shrine appeared. In another kind of situation, Zelda just decided to take a rip-off of SSX Tricky, and I'm just snowboarding down a mountain like I'm Mac or something, and then a shrine appeared. Just when you think it can't get any wackier, I have to shoot up waterfalls, go through these blue things. I'm defying the laws of osmosis, running from a high to low concentration. Well, I'm swimming up the waterfall here as a Zora, so I defy any kind of biology. If you want to know whether or not this DLC is for you, it's really simple. If you enjoyed hunting down and completing shrines, this DLC is just more of the same, but better and more challenging. I had a blast with most of these shrines, and they provided fresh content to what is already considered one of the greatest video games ever created. Zelda Breath of the Wild won Game of the Year for a reason, because it redefined what a Zelda game should be and what an open world game should be. A good open world game has to have a tremendous amount of quantity. I don't have to explain to you why Zelda Breath of the Wild covers that. You can look up any other YouTube video that will do a much better job explaining that than I can. The reason why Breath of the Wild outdoes any other kind of open world game is because everything that you're doing has a purpose and it's always a fresh experience, so that alone gives me every reason to buy any DLC that they ever come out with. Zelda's DLC counterpart just gives us another reason to pick up and play. I promise you that this will not disappoint, even if you do die a lot.